this is one question that is frequently asked and touches on the basis of commercial law. Before we answer the question, there are certain things that we need to, discuss. The first thing being what a verbal contract is. As the term signifies, a verbal contract is a contract that isn't reduced into writing. In other words, it's an oral contract or a contract that is made by word of mouth. Now we need to understand what a contract is. A contract is an agreement between two or more parties, right? But for a contract to be binding, there are certain vital elements that need to be present. Personally, I would say for a verbal contract, there are 7 key elements that needs to be present in order for the contract to be binding. Number 1, offer. Number 2, acceptance. Number 3, intention of the parties to enter into legal relations. Number 4, consideration. Number 5, the capacity of the parties. Number 6, legality of the purpose. And number 7, witness. Now, number 7 is typically not listed as part of the requirements for contract, but I'm including it because this is a verbal contract we are discussing, and in this day and age of people being dubious, it's always better to have number 7 present. So now let's break it down. I know that these terms might be alien to a lot of people, but not to worry, I'm going to break it down using examples so you understand how these different elements play into having a binding contract. Yeah. Now, Mr. A or a company makes an offer to say, I have this phone for sale and it's going for 10,000 naira only. It's not going to happen in Nigeria, but let's just assume, let's go with the play, right? I have this phone for sale and it's going for 10,000 naira. Mr. B reaches out to Mr. A and says, I want to buy this phone for 10,000 naira. Now, both parties agree that this phone is going to be exchanged from Mr. A or company A to Mr. B for the amount of 10,000 naira. Mr. B transfers the 10,000 naira to Mr. A or company A. Now, for party B to be able to buy this item, there are certain other requirements that need to be met. Regarding the capacity of the parties, party A has to be the owner of the property, or at least has been given the authority to sell this phone by the actual owner. Remember the principle of law, you cannot give what you do not have. Secondly, party A and party B both have to be of legal age, because if either of them is a minor, it means that that contract is not binding. Thirdly, both parties, if they are individuals, have to be of sound mind, have to be mentally stable, such that they are able to make the decision whether or not to buy or sell the items. Where party A is a company or vice versa, it's important that one checks to see that the company is not a company that is just about being wound up or is being sanctioned pursuant to laws or regulations. It's always important to check that. Now, where all those elements are met, then there's the final step. What is the purpose of the contract? Where the contract is being entered into for an illegal purpose, that contract can never be binding. So let me give you an example. If you enter into an agreement with anybody for an illegal purpose, you cannot enforce that contract in the court of law. You can't put legality on illegality. Let's give a very typical example. You cannot engage the services of someone to help you vandalize somebody's car, or make an agreement with some boys that I would house you and you can engage in internet fraud in my house, but you will give me a certain percentage off of whatever it is that you're able to make from whatever activities you're carrying out. These activities are illegal, can never be binding. And then the last point being that there has to be a witness. The reason why I've said that there has to be a witness is because this is a verbal contract. We know how things can go when it now has to do with my word against your word. However, in a lot of cases, the court is able to decipher that a contract is said to have existed, particularly when they consider the parties' intentions, the steps that were taken by both parties. They can decipher whether or not there was a verbal contract, because it's always difficult to prove, verbal contract. However, if you have a witness, like I said, it's easier to prove this in court when there's an action for enforcing a contract. Now, to answer the question, is a verbal contract binding? Simply put, yes, a verbal contract is very much binding, as much as a written contract is. So next time you're posed with the question as to whether or not a verbal contract is binding, the answer is yes, a verbal contract is binding.